Good afternoon. I'm meteorologist Sarah Osterbind, and I wanted to give y'all a quick update on what's going on tonight as well as into this weekend. So, going ahead, starting off looking at our current clouds and radar. If you look behind all the warnings, there is some overcast skies coming into play due to that high pressure system starting to fade off the coast, and we do have lots of winter storm warnings across the region, in fact, across the entire region. But we're going to see those stick around until Monday, really. So it's going to be here to stay. We will see the effects go on into the next couple days due to the temperatures being so bitterly cold. But going ahead, taking a look, temperatures right now, very, very normal. 46 in Roanoke, 49 South Boston, Hot Springs, seeing 31 degrees, and Independence is currently 44. So it's very, very normal today. Tonight's lows looking decently warm, at least to start before we get to midnight. 41 degrees in the New River Valley, Highlands 41, Roanoke getting down to 46, Lynchburg 47, and Southside 49. Actually, these are our highs. So we're actually going to be seeing some pretty high temperatures today, and it's looking like a nice day to go ahead and get out one last time before this storm hits us, and also getting some supplies that you may need to make it through the weekend just more comfortably. But going ahead, shifting gears, taking a look at what we are expecting from this system, we're going to be seeing widespread snow to start, mainly starting on Saturday evening. Now, once we go into Sunday morning, we're going to start to transition into more of a wintry mix, starting off with sleet and then ending with freezing rain, and that is due to the warm air aloft warming up those ice crystals as they fall, and either falling as liquid precip or sleet. So taking a look at that, we're going to be monitoring that on Sunday, but we're going to be seeing those stick around for much of the early portions of next week due to those very, very cold temperatures. But taking a look at tonight, we're going to start to cool off very, very quickly. Once we get to about 5 p.m., that's when the drop really starts to start. We get down to 18 degrees right around 10 p.m., and actually that's the wind chill, but we'll see a 5-degree wind chill early on tomorrow morning. Those temperatures in the 20s and teens early tomorrow, so we're not warming up at all on tomorrow. We're actually going to cool down substantially, seeing our highs being lower than our lows tonight. But taking a look at our future cast, once we get to tonight, that's when this system is really going to make landfall in Texas, where they're going to be seeing some rain, freezing rain, snow, all of the above with this system, as the low pressure just sits on the border of Mexico and Texas. And it's going to come up towards our region relatively slowly. We're going to see the snow come into play tomorrow evening right around 6. It's going to take about 24 hours to get here from when it makes landfall in Texas. Now, once we get into the overnight hours of Saturday into Sunday, we're going to transition into more of a heavy snow, but it's not long after we see that heavy snow that we start to see the wintry mix, especially in Southside. They're going to see it a decent amount earlier than we will here in Roanoke, and especially in the Highlands. But once we get into Monday morning, we could even see some snow. That said, that is still a couple days away. Still looking at the model runs for this, but it is very possible that we do see this trickle into Monday morning, at least in the early hours. But taking a look at our temperatures aloft, we are going to be warming up at 850 millibars a lot more quickly than we are at the surface. So 850 millibars, if you don't know, is about 1,000 feet above the surface. So what happens is when that warms up before the surface, we're seeing that snow start to fall at 500 millibars. Once it hits the 850 millibar location, starts to defrost, melt even, and then it goes into the surface and either freezes or it just hits the ground, and once it hits the ground, turns to ice. So that's the difference between snow, sleet, freezing rain, is just a slight temperature difference in the upper atmosphere, only 1,000 feet above us. So once we get into the early hours of Sunday, mainly afternoon for Roanoke, we're going to be seeing that wintry precip become more and more close to freezing rain. As we hit 43 degrees, that is really going to be the freezing rain. So starting off with the sleet, ending with freezing rain. But that said, taking a look at Southside, they're going to be seeing a very similar situation. That said, a lot earlier of a start time for the ice. So right around 9 a.m., they're going to start to see the sleet come in, 33 degrees at 850 millibar and 22 degrees at the surface. And we're going to warm up pretty quickly from there, at least in the upper atmosphere. Still seeing 28 degrees at the surface, 46 degrees aloft, and that is Sunday, 6 p.m. So we will be seeing freezing rain to end the day off in the south side, Roanoke, across the entire region. And taking a look at timing-wise, the snow is going to come into play right after 4 p.m., likely around 6 p.m. for the Roanoke area. Those cold temperatures are already on their way. As we go into tonight, we will start to see that temperature really plummet. As we go into Sunday, though, we're going to see the snow dissipate quite a bit, and we're going to start to see more ice, more wintry mix, especially freezing rain once we hit the late afternoon into the evening hours of Sunday. But we will start with sleet early in the morning on Sunday. So, that said, here is our snow forecast, seeing 1 to 3 inches in the south side as well as southern parts of the New River Valley, in addition to at least half an inch of ice on top of that. As you go north, you're seeing more snow, less ice. So here in Roanoke, Lynchburg, northern parts of the New River Valley, including Blacksburg, Christiansburg, we are going to be seeing 3 to 7 inches in addition to a quarter of an inch of ice to half an inch of ice on top of that. And then in the Highlands, they're seeing the least amount of ice. That said, 25 or a quarter of an inch of ice or less, still a very, very large amount of ice up in the Highlands, in addition to the 7 to 12 inches of snow that they will be seeing. So that said, it is really important to prepare because this is going to be a doozy of a storm. Lots of ice regardless of where you're at in the region, and it's going to stick around. So taking a look at these temperatures, obviously today, 46, not too bad. As we go tomorrow, though, 25-degree high. That's 22 degrees below the January average. Same deal with Sunday, 25 degrees, but once we go to Monday, we're seeing 24 degrees. So we're actually seeing a drop in temperatures as we go into the early portion of that week. And as we hit Tuesday, slightly warmer, but that said, it's not above freezing. And even Wednesday, we're seeing 34 degrees, which is just above the freezing mark. But since we have all this cloud coverage, it's going to act as a blanket. So we're going to have a nice sheet of ice and snow, and with that blanket on top, it's acting as a cooler or a fridge. So it's reflecting that cold air mass at the bottom, at the surface, and it's not going to warm up too much. So this temperature is likely to drop at the surface, where we will not see any defrost for the next couple days. So taking a look at your next 7-day forecast, today is still looking like a nice day, 46 degrees, chilly in my opinion, but still a very normal day for January, getting down to 18 tonight. And then as we head into the next days after that, seeing a high of 25 degrees both Saturday and Sunday, getting into the teens for our low overnight, and our highest low for the next week is 20 degrees. Brr. So once we get to Monday, we're going to see more. The odds are growing that we could see some precipitation early hours of Monday. That said, the evening should be pretty dry. Once again, though, pretty cloudy. See that low temperature really just dig down, getting to 0 degrees Monday night and Tuesday. We will warm up just slightly, but not enough to really melt any of the snow. The sun on Tuesday should help a bit, but unfortunately, once Wednesday comes, we're still seeing the 34 degree, which is, once again, above freezing, but likely to not help too much in melting the snow and the ice. And then Thursday, once again, below freezing. So we definitely have a chilly week ahead of us and a doozy of a storm coming this weekend. So it is imperative that you prepare now. If you don't already have flashlights, batteries, blankets, non-perishables, any prescription medication, or any medication you may need for this week and quite possibly into the next couple of days in the beginning of the week, I do recommend you head out today while you can before the snow comes. And honestly, on Saturday, we will not be seeing too much of the storm until later in the evening, so you could head out tomorrow. It's just going to be very, very cold. So stay tuned with your local weather authority for any updates coming up. That said, I anticipate this not changing too much from now since we are so close to the storm.